In endocrine glands, the thyroid gland is endocrine gland, parathyroid gland is endocrine gland, ovary, testes, islet of Langerhans. These are the few examples of endocrine gland. Parathyroid gland is present behind the thyroid gland. Usually, they are 4 in number. They may be 5 or 6, but usually they are 4 arranged in pairs. 2 in upper part behind the thyroid gland, 2 is lower part behind the thyroid gland, labeled as superior parathyroid gland and inferior parathyroid gland. The shape of the gland is usually oval shape, but it may be circular, it may be hemisphere, it may be tear shape, or it may be some other form. But usually it is round to oval in shape, present behind the thyroid gland. They arrange in pairs, as we discussed before, 4 to 6 millimeter in size, oval in shape, light brown to tan in color, mainly located in neck. Superiorly, parathyroid gland position is relatively fixed, but inferior parathyroid position is variable. This is very important point regarding clinical application, regarding surgical point of view. For example, अगर आपको सुपीरियर पैराथायरॉयड ग्लैंड की सर्जरी करनी है किसी भी वजह से, तो हमें पता है कि इट इज फिक्स्ड इन पोजीशन, बट inferior parathyroid position is variable. In 40% cases, it is present behind the neck, behind the thyroid gland. In 40% cases, in the neck anywhere, and in remaining 20% cases in the mediastinum as well. These glands are usually not palpable. As we discussed, superior parathyroid gland position is relatively fixed, but inferior parathyroid position is variable. Okay. What is embryological origin? Superior parathyroid gland originated from 4th pharyngeal pouch, while inferior parathyroid gland originated from 3rd pharyngeal pouch. So, the distance from origination to their final destination is more in inferior parathyroid gland as compared to the superior parathyroid gland. This is possible explanation. The variation in the presence of inferior parathyroid gland in 40% cases in the behind the neck, behind the thyroid gland, 40% in the neck, and 20% in the mediastinum. Regarding blood supply, the blood supply of parathyroid gland is from inferior thyroid artery. From inferior, both glands, superior parathyroid gland and inferior parathyroid gland, they are supplied by inferior thyroid artery. And the venous drainage is venous thyroid plexus and paratracheal and deep cervical nodes along with the gland. The secretions of the parathyroid gland is called parathyroid hormone or parathormone or parathyrotin. It is secreted by chief cells of the parathyroid gland. It has a short half-life, 2 to 4 minutes. Because of this short half-life, it is not possible if the patient has hypoparathyroidism, we are able to replace the parathyroid hormone because it has a very short half-life. What is the function of parathyroid gland? In one sentence, it is responsible for calcium metabolism. How? By secreting parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid gland is responsible for calcium metabolism by secreting parathyroid hormone. The main target areas of parathyroid gland as shown in this diagram: bone, kidney and intestine. Parathyroid hormone releases calcium from bone. Parathyroid hormone act on kidney and retain calcium. Parathyroid hormone act on intestine and absorbs more calcium. After these, if the blood level of the calcium becomes on higher side, that will negatively act on the parathyroid gland and decrease the parathyroid secretion, that is called negative feedback. Now we have two types of parathyroid disorders, hyperparathyroidism and hypoparathyroidism. Hyperparathyroidism when the secretion of parathyroid gland becomes high. Hypoparathyroidism when the secretion of parathyroid hormone becomes low. Hyperparathyroidism is further divided into three: primary hyperparathyroidism, secondary hyperparathyroidism, and tertiary hyperparathyroidism. If the pathogenesis or the cause or the problem is in the parathyroid gland, that is called primary hyperparathyroidism. If the pathology is somewhere else, and to compensate this pathology, to compensate that problem, if parathyroid gland secretes more parathyroid hormone, that is called secondary hyperparathyroidism. I will explain tertiary after that. But first, when the pathology is in the parathyroid gland, it is primary hyperparathyroidism. If the pathology is somewhere else, it is called secondary hyperparathyroidism. This is a good table which shows primary hyperparathyroidism, secondary hyperparathyroidism, and tertiary hyperparathyroidism. This is important. Best choice question, multiple choice questions और scenario इस टेबल से कवर अप हो जाते हैं, तो you should memorize this table. We can divide primary, secondary, and tertiary on the basis of calcium, phosphate, and parathyroid hormone. Calcium, parathyroid hormone, and phosphate. When parathyroid hormone and calcium is high and the phosphate is low, that is primary hyperparathyroidism. When calcium is low, parathyroid hormone is high and phosphate is also high, that is secondary hyperparathyroidism. In tertiary hyperparathyroidism, all are on higher side. Secondary hyperparathyroidism initially is a reversible condition, but if prolonged, the gland becomes autonomous, resulting in a state called tertiary hyperparathyroidism. So tertiary hyperparathyroidism is initially a secondary hyperparathyroidism, but after prolonged time, the gland becomes autonomous, automatic, not responding to the level of calcium, and persistently secrete large quantities of parathyroid hormone and label as tertiary hyperparathyroidism. Hyperparathyroidism may be an isolated pathology or may be a part of syndrome. There are two common syndromes in which the hyperparathyroidism may be associated. That is called MAN1, MAN2A, and rarities MAN2B. Now, what are the causes of primary hyperparathyroidism? So, the primary hyperparathyroidism, most common cause of primary hyperparathyroidism is parathyroid adenoma, which accounts 85%. 14% primary hyperparathyroidism is caused by parathyroid hyperplasia, and the remaining 1% is caused by parathyroid carcinoma. What are the causes of secondary hyperparathyroidism? The secondary hyperparathyroidism, the main cause of secondary hyperparathyroidism is chronic renal failure. There are other causes also, but at final year, if you remember, chronic renal failure is the most important cause of secondary hyperparathyroidism. That is more than enough for your level. The other causes of secondary hyperparathyroidism is vitamin D deficiency, malabsorption, pseudohypoparathyroidism, and so on. Now, what are the clinical features of hyperparathyroidism? In hyperparathyroidism, because parathyroid hormone absorbs the calcium from the bone, so definitely it weakens the bone. The bone are fragile, and this fragility cause easily fractured. It may cause kidney stones, excessive urination, abdominal pain, fatigability, weakness, depression, bone and joint pain, frequent complaints of illness, nausea, vomiting, or loss of appetite. So once you diagnose clinically our patient has hyperparathyroidism. So, is it primary hyperparathyroidism? Is it secondary hyperparathyroidism? Or it is tertiary hyperparathyroidism? To differentiate these three, we need calcium, blood calcium, serum calcium level, parathyroid hormones level, and phosphate level. If the calcium is high, parathyroid is high, phosphate is on lower side, that is primary hyperparathyroidism. If the calcium is on lower side or normal, parathyroid hormone is on higher side, and phosphate is also on higher side or normal, that is under the criteria of secondary hyperparathyroidism. In tertiary hyperparathyroidism, calcium, phosphate, and parathyroid hormone all are on higher side. Now, once you diagnose that our patient has hyperparathyroidism, primary, secondary, or tertiary. So, secondary and tertiary treat the cause. In secondary and tertiary, treat the cause. In primary hyperparathyroidism, surgery is the mainstay of treatment. If the hyperparathyroidism is caused by adenoma, the treatment is excision. If the hyperparathyroidism is caused by parathyroid carcinoma, the treatment is again excision. But in case of parathyroid hyperplasia, we have to excise all the 4 glands. If we excise all the 4 glands, patient becomes permanently hypoparathyroid. So, what we are doing, we are removing all the 4 glands and make it small pieces. एक ग्लैंड के छोटे छोटे पीस कर लिए, जैसे कटाकट करते हैं उस तरह के छोटे छोटे पीस कर लिए, और उन पीसेस को जो 1 मिलीमीटर के गुड पीसेस थे 5, 6 और 7, उनको हमने इम्प्लांट कर दिया into the sternocleidomastoid muscle or in the forearm brachioradialis muscle. Why we implant in the sternocleidomastoid or in the brachioradialis muscle? Because sometimes these small pieces again hyperplastic and start to secrete large quantities of parathyroid hormone and patient become hyperparathyroidism again. So if the patient develop again, we have a chance to remove from brachioradialis muscle or from sternocleidomastoid muscle. If we left half, we left 1 or pieces implant in the neck in its usual position, then if the recurrence is there, it is very difficult to find these small pieces in the neck, and if we are trying to remove this, it has full of complication. So usually surgeons are avoid to implant in the neck behind the thyroid gland. What are the indications of parathyroidectomy? इन्हीं के हम कब पैराथायराइड निकालें? When the patient develop urinary tract calculi, reduced bone density, high serum calcium, younger age group, deteriorating renal function, or patient develops symptomatic hypercalcemia. Okay. Preoperative localization is very important when we are planning to remove the gland. Preoperative localization is very important, as we discussed initially in our lecture in the anatomical segment. The position of the superior parathyroid gland is relatively fixed, but the position of the inferior parathyroid gland is variable. It is 40% behind the thyroid gland, 40% in the neck, and 20% in the chest. If we are not aware, if we are not preoperatively localize the parathyroid gland, and we jump to the surgery, we explore the neck, maybe the parathyroid gland is present in the chest. So preoperative localization is very important to remove the gland successfully. Sometimes pathology is in one gland and we are not find that gland. So again, that's why preoperative localization is very important to remove the exact gland which is causing the problem. What are the localization methods? This is ultrasound of the neck, CT scan, MRI of the neck, system EB scan, SPECT 3-dimensional imaging. And some surgeons in a good centers, they are also using intraoperative monitoring. As we all know that it has a short half-life, so we can use physiological approach to remove parathyroid gland or not during surgery, in addition to frozen section. For that, serum level of parathyroid hormone measurement precisely, pre-removal, 5 minutes after removal, and 10 minutes after removal. If after 30 minutes the percentage of the parathyroid hormone drops more than 50%, then further if drop more than 50%, then that is sufficient dissection and we remove the diseased gland. If the percentage is not dropped more than 50%, then further exploration is indicated. The second part of presentation is hypoparathyroidism. In hypoparathyroidism, the parathyroid secretion is on lower side or low. This hypoparathyroidism may be congenital or may be a part of medical causes like autoimmune polyglandular syndrome, Wilson syndrome, or maybe a surgical causes. During thyroidectomy, sometimes the parathyroid gland may be excised, that may cause hypoparathyroidism, or during neck dissection, hypoparathyroidism is there, or if there is a radiotherapy of the neck, it may cause hypoparathyroidism. So the causes of hypoparathyroidism: congenital, medical, surgical, radiotherapy. These are the causes of hypoparathyroidism. And when the parathyroid hormone is low, so the calcium level is low, then patient develop neuromuscular symptoms. Why patient develop neuromuscular symptoms? Because that is due to, you can understand that in nerve channels there is a sodium and calcium channels, and sodium and calcium, they interact with each other. When both are normal, sodium goes inside and causing depolarization phase of the action potential. But the normal calcium stabilize the entry of sodium. When the calcium is low, more sodium enter into the nerves or neurons and causing more depolarization. So this depolarization leads to muscle twitching, muscle fasciculations, muscle spasmodic movements. This type of movements is there. And chronic hypoparathyroidism lead to abnormal bone demineralization, cataracts, calcification in the basal ganglia, and extrapyramidal disorders. And there are two common clinical signs which we used. We percuss the facial nerve just below the zygoma and causes ipsilateral facial muscle and contraction of the ipsilateral facial muscle, that is called Chvostek sign. And the second is Trozius sign, in which carpopedal spasm is there. How we conduct this Trozius signs clinically? First, we blood pressure liya patient ka. If the blood pressure of the patient, for example, is 140/80, so the systolic is 140, diastolic is 80, so we have to inflate the cuff 20 millimeter of mercury more than its systolic. So in this example which I am giving, if the blood pressure is 140, so we have to raise the pressure up to 160, and within 3 minutes if the hand becomes spasmodic, so that is called Trozius sign. That signifies the patient has hypocalcemia, and after 3 minutes everyone has carpal spasm of the hand, but if within 3 minutes, it means patient has hypocalcemia. What are the clinical features? Symptoms are numbness, paresthesia, tetanic symptoms, hyperactive tendon reflexes, petechiae, purpura, carpopedal or laryngeal spasms, cardiac arrhythmias, fits. These are the Trozius sign and Clostick sign. And on the heart, it causes decreased myocardial contractility, leads to cardiac failure. In ECG changes, prolonged QRS complex, life-threatening ventricular arrhythmias. Now, diagnosis of hypoparathyroidism. In diagnosis of hyperparathyroidism, we are advised blood calcium level. So if the blood calcium is low, so there is a chances of hypoparathyroidism. And second is parathyroid hormone. The parathyroid hormone may also be low. Now, what is the treatment of this hypoparathyroidism? The treatment depends on where the patient presented. If the patient presented in emergency, the treatment is different. If the patient is presented in OPD, the treatment is different. In OPD, most likely patient is stable, so we advise oral diet rich in calcium and the calcium supplementations or vitamin D. But if the patient presented in emergency, we are giving 10% calcium gluconate 10 ml in 10 minutes. So this 10 is very important because don't give calcium fast. If anyone give calcium fast, so it may cause cardiac arrhythmias which may be life threatening. So when the patient is in emergency, always 10 ml 10% calcium gluconate intravenously in diluted form in 10 minutes.